Hello and welcome to As You Are podcast with myself, Lisa, and the gloriously wonderful Whit Stewart. We are back. We've had a little break because we record when we feel like it, which I feel is an incredibly important thing to do in today's world where the expectations are quite enormous and you can impose on yourself rules and regulations that you don't need to adhere to. So we are very much of when the mood takes us, let's do it. And that is how we're rolling. Isn't that right, Whit?
Damn straight.
So Whit has a story to tell us. It's a little bit of a story about what has happened to her in the last few days. Are you going to share that with us, lovely Whit?
Yes, I will tell the story. And Lisa, you know most of the story, but you don't know all. So please,
Exactly.
stop and ask me questions, etc. I have a little story that I could say is about manifesting, but I think it's about other things as well, as we touched upon before we started recording this conversation. So I have wanted a house for a long time. A house that is for my family, down the road for my kids, for me and my husband, for us to share, that has space, lots of outdoor space. We live currently in an incredibly lovely small flat in London. We drive each other a bit mad in terms of space, but we love it. We love it here, but we also dream of having a place like, quote unquote, in the country. So I have been dreaming of this place in the country forever. Like ever since, and I have to say, like ever since I was like a kid, I've like dreamt of what this house would be like and what it might look like and where it might be and all those things. And I never had like really clear answers on all those things. I also must say my dad was an architect, and so like houses are like really, I am very, very aware of houses, and I always pay attention to them, and I love looking at houses, and I get very excited by them. So often my looking at houses is online. It is it's one of the pastimes that I really, really enjoy, but even better, it's in person. So anyway, basically, I'm always casually looking for houses. And in the meantime, I'm always like dreaming about houses. So go back to this last Christmas. We were doing our Christmas thing, and I was sitting on the sofa and I was like looking through houses and a house popped up and I was like, oh my God, that's our house. That's the house. And my dreams, as I said, weren't like totally specific in the past, but I was just like, that's our house. I was like scrolling through. I showed my husband. He was like, holy shit, the house is amazing. But it said very clearly on the listing, sold subject to contract. And he was like, well, damn, that really sucks. We missed that one. And I was like, no, but this is our house. We have to write them immediately. And he was like, but it's sold. And I was like, no, it's our house. So we wrote the estate agent. I wrote them. I filled out a little form, but then I also wrote them an email and I just said, we're extremely interested. If anything happens with this sale, like, please let us know. And so they didn't, they wrote us back. They said, thank you for your interest. Sale looks like it's going through. Everything's going great, but we'll definitely let you know. So basically, I was like, excellent. It's our house. So like, be talking to you in the near future. And my husband was like, I roll like, okay, I'm going to the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea.
And I remember that. And
I told you, Lisa.
Exactly. We had a conversation about it and you're like, I have found this house and I don't care if it's under contract. I remember it so well because it was like this energy coming from you. I was like, yeah, I've just found my house. Okay. Someone else is buying it, but it's going to be mine.
That has nothing to do with anything. So basically, I checked in with them a couple more times. My husband checked in with them too, like wrote them an email and just said, we're just checking in. Just like it was still up on the internet with like the same sold subject for contract for months. So, wrote an email here and there and just said, just checking in on that sale. How's it going? When's it going to fall through? No, we didn't say that, but in my head, I was saying that. And they were like, nope, everything's good, but we'll definitely let you know, giving your contact information to like the person who's like responsible for dealing with the, sale. And just last week, Lisa, got an email. No, actually, my husband got an email. We both got an email, but I hadn't checked my email yet. And I was in a meeting, a very informal meeting. And I got a message from my husband that was like, call me immediately. And that never happens. And we have small kids, and that it's immediately, it's like a alarm.
That's a trigger. That's a trigger. That's
Yeah. It's like, please don't write that to me. So I was like in the meeting, as I said, it was informal. And I was like, I'm just going to mute myself really quickly. I just need to make sure everything is okay. So I called my husband. He said, they wrote us about the house. And I started like freaking out. I was like jumping up and down. I was like yelling at the top of my lungs. I was like, and I also was like, I told you, I knew it. It's our house. So anyway, tons of excitement. I get off, I unmute myself, and my friend was like, that made me cry. You were so happy. She was like, what happened? And then I told her. And basically, it was just like so much excitement. So much excitement. I mean, I had also like envisioned us. I'm a very visual person. It is very easy for me to exist in a space in my head, like whether that's an outdoor space, an indoor space, whatever. So like that is one area of manifestation that like is really easy for me and I find really enjoyable as well. So I'd already like lived in this house in my head. So I had like already like been through this house. So we basically set up this appointment to go see the house. And in the meantime, we made a little trip of it. So we had a night away with our kids, and it was all really exciting. And I'm talking about the emotions because basically it was the craziest emotional roller coaster over this like weekend. Insane. So basically, like we go off on the journey and I'm just like so excited and a little bit in shock too that we're actually going to see this house that I've lived in already. So, like, but I've lived in it already.
Well, the visualization, it feels real. I mean, that means you are feeling into what it feels like to live in that space. I mean, you'd been there, you'd seen that.
Yes. And Lisa, we've talked a lot about manifestation. We have also been practicing manifestation and the certain elements of it and talking about the certain like pieces and talking about it within a larger group. And so that has been on my mind, certainly. So as I'm sure it's been on your mind as well. But we go to see this house, and the house is like better than expected, really. I mean, there's some things that I'm like, okay, like, I'm like going in just like trying to, for me, I need to feel the energy of a place. So like, I need to like feel what it feels like. And it felt better than I expected on the inside, right? So then the kids are like trying to get my attention. And the owner was like, well, they can go down. You guys do like trampolines? And of course the kids are like, are we children? So like I took them down to the edge of the garden, the bottom of the garden, where there's this big trampoline. And I'm chatting with her, and I look back up toward the house, and there are these like big, and I had not really noticed them on the way in because we came in on one drive, this big pylon, like electrical pylon for like electrical lines. And I was like, that's not very nice. And the trees currently don't have leaves on them because it's just turning into spring. So like the leaves are coming out. So like I look up and I'm like, that would probably bother me. Like that feels ominous and it feels like foreboding. And it's like, I don't want a huge electrical line like down this the house is like down this quaint little lane, and it's like enclosed by trees, and it's really like secluded in a lot of ways. I mean, there are a couple neighbors, but for the most part, like what we really wanted was a house that's like away from things. So I was like, And then we kept looking at the house and we had a lovely time, and my husband and I drove away and we were like, that house is amazing. And I just had this like little like niggle of a thing about that like big electrical line. And I was like, okay. We went back to the place where we were going to stay, and we had dinner and we talked about it, and my husband's getting more and more excited about it. And I went into like super practical mode first. which was kind of interesting because I'm like a super dreamer. So like I can dream and dream and dream, but then all of a sudden we're like there and the thing is like potentially happening. But it's also just in terms of our like financial situation, it's not like an easy thing where we're like, oh yeah, we'll take it, just like on the spot. It's like
Flat
I
down
gotta
that
sit down
deposit
with
now.
numbers
Yeah.
and like actually figure out if this is like actually feasible. But it's like within the realm of certainly, like definitely we can make it work. Anyway, I go to sleep and I'm thinking about that damn power line. And then also the septic tank, which I mentioned. The septic tank also, my husband was like, it sounds like it's fine. I was like, I grew up with a septic tank. I was like, that septic tank needs replacing from every
I
concern.
grew up with a septic tank
Yeah.
too.
I was like,
Yeah, it
and
is
my
not
parents
pretty.
talked about the septic tank all the goddamn time. So anyway, I was like, that septic tank needs replacing. Like, mark my words.
Poo in a pylon.
Yeah. Yeah. A poo and a pylon are like the things that I'm like falling asleep thinking about. And I wake up the next morning and I was like, damn pylon. And I mentioned it to my husband. I was like, it just doesn't feel good to me. Like this, it just doesn't feel good. So then I get on the internet. Like I want to find out about the pylon and how close it is to the house, and if that has any like health issues and like what the deal is. And basically, over the next 24 hours, without being told anything by the estate agent who we have a big conversation with and ask all these questions to about like why the sale fell through and all this stuff, nothing from the owner, of course, who's like, I just want to get rid of this house as quickly as possible. And I'm like, why do you want to get rid of it so quickly? And she had a story around that, which might have been totally true. But basically, I was like, something's like not right. So basically, over the course of the next 24 hours is just like we find out that there are basically these massive plans for that specific area and then on the coast, which is really beautiful there, like really gorgeous, but these incredibly crazy plans, 5 different enormous, basically like energy projects. So to bring green energy into the UK and then to like move it around the country. And so basically they're going to put up like more electrical pylons. I mean, they're going to bury some and they like, but then they're doing the nuclear like lamps that's right there. They're now doubling it. So they're basically putting in all these crazy roads and literally they're putting up this like huge structure 2 miles up the road from where the house is. Like it's basically being built all around it. No one told us this, of course. Not of course. I don't want to say of course because I'm not cynical. I honestly am not. I'm incredibly gullible and I believe people, which is like often can be problematic in these scenarios. But in this scenario, I followed my gut, looked into it, was like, didn't back down when my husband was like, oh, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's a tiny thing. Like, I could get over that. That's like, it's 600 feet away. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I'm just going to keep like digging. And it didn't end up taking much digging. It's just I didn't know what I was like looking for. I just was going on a feeling of discomfort around this thing. So basically, we're not getting the house. And I choose to see the house. This is another part of it, which makes me really like optimistic and happy, is that I choose to see the house as driftwood. Have I talked to you about this, Lisa?
I don't know. It
It's a
doesn't sound.
beautiful like metaphor, basically. It's like when you're out. Okay, so when you're out to sea, as one does, and
Well,
you run
I
out at
live
sea.
surrounded by sea, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah,
relate
so if
to
you're
that.
out to sea and you are looking for land, you're like looking for the place, for the manifested place. So you're looking for your dream, you're looking for the land that you have been like sailing toward for like weeks or months or whatever. When you get close to land, you start to see driftwood first. And driftwood like is a sign that you are like close to land. So basically, like, it could be seen in the scenario of like, oh, that was the perfect place and we'll never find a place that great. And like, it's just like, oh, that was such bad luck. And blah, blah, blah. But instead I'm like, oh my God, we are so close. We are so close. We just found this place that checked 99% of the boxes. Like both of us, which is also really rare because we don't often disagree. We're often like, one of us is like, this is amazing. The other one's like, well, have you seen this and this and this? So like we both, like, it checked 99% of the boxes. But there was like this one big fat 1% that was like really could become a massive issue, right? So we're not going to commit. But it's like, but we're so close. It's going to happen. We're so close. It's like it's right there. It's like that is just like I've tasted it now, and now it's become real too. It's like we both went through all the like we didn't go through all the calculations, but we were like, how do we make this work? We did logistical things to be like, okay, this is what we would have to do, and this is how we could do it with our place, and blah blah blah. So it's really, to me, it's super exciting. And I also have a bit of sadness around leaving the place because it is really great and we could make it really great. But mainly I have this, like, I think we would have put a lot of money into it, more than you could guess at first, like, look. And then it's just in a place that I'm just totally unwilling to commit to. But basically, it was an incredible emotional roller coaster. It is so exciting to me in terms of like manifestation and dreams and creating our lives as creators, as humans who are creators. And then also following my intuition when I could have, in the past, I would have been like, oh, but there's so many other things. It's like perfect, it's perfect. There's just this one thing. There's just this one thing, but I'll just like push that aside because everything else is great. And I'm just unwilling to do that at this point in my life. And I'm really trust myself at this point in my life. So I wasn't going to let it stand that there was this thing that didn't feel right at all to me.
It's an interesting balance, isn't it? That thing of, well, it ticks all of these boxes, yet my intuition is saying this. Is it fear or is it intuition? And of course, that led you to a path of, well, I am actually going to do a bit of research. And you said you didn't have to dig too deep to realize that the area is going to change. It's not going to look like that. And I can say that when you buy a house and there's significant any kind of road works or anything where there's a lot of trucks, there is dust, and because my sister was in that same situation, bought a place on the outskirts, Western Melbourne, and all of a sudden they did this huge works pretty much right next to her road, that involved a tunnel and all sorts of things. And of course, they were digging up all of this toxic soil and the dust, and it's been years. And it, enough that they kind of, well, yeah, maybe we would like to move. And so knowing that, I mean, I don't know if it was in the planning stages when they bought it, but yeah, if someone had have said, well, this is going to happen, they might have gone, yeah, maybe we won't buy there, because it's significant. It's trucks and it's noise, and there's layers and layers and layers on top of that. If they're building new roads, it might, they're going to have to take down trees, and they'll have to like make roads wider, and there's a whole lot involved in that. So it might feel like it's small, but it's actually huge.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I wanted to ask you is, did you learn anything new about yourself in this process?
I think I just gained more trust in myself, which feels amazing. Like today I had a bit of sadness of this, like, okay, I'm saying goodbye to this place, in this manifestation, in this like form. But yesterday I was like ecstatic because we had found out, and we wrote them a very clear email that's just like, we are not willing to commit to a place in that location, sadly. I mean, it's an incredible location. It's so beautiful right now. Like, but it is 15, 20 years of work that they are planning. Like, anyway, but basically it just like, what I learned is just like, yeah, to trust myself that much more. And I've been on a path of trusting myself more and more over time, like a real committed path. But in those moments, it's so amazing because the other thing is we didn't put in an offer. We didn't get surveyors. We didn't spend a dime on this place. It happened so fast. We saw the place, we loved the place, trusted my intuition on this like weird niggle of a thing, and then were able to decide within 24 hours, basically, after we had seen the place. Yeah, 24 hours after we had seen the place, we were able to say, we can't commit to it because of this reason. And we could have, at that point, you know, she wanted to move really fast to sell this house. We could have put in an offer. We could have paid thousands of pounds to get it surveyed and like, you know, we could have been like committed to it in other ways, even if we didn't actually buy the house in the end. We could have spent so much money doing it, but we didn't spend any. We had this great little holiday away, my family. It was super fun. We listened to Beyonce the whole way there, which was fucking awesome. It was just like so fun. We walked on the beach. We ate mediocre food.
You didn't have to cook it, so
We didn't cook it. We stayed in this super cozy room. The kids were delighted. Like, it was just really such a fun adventure.
and the win-win for that is you had a great adventure, you trusted your intuition, and you don't have to move, and you know there's not all of the stress of that. Yeah, potentially finding out later about all of these things that are happening, which
Yeah.
can be really stressful.
And I don't have to think about a septic tank.
Exactly. Yeah. No one wants an exploding or leaking septic tank. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just self-trust. And that I think is the like biggest,
Mm.
you know, the biggest thing. And then also I have done a lot of breathing at this point, breath work. And so I am so much closer to myself through that. Like my nervous system is so much more regulated than it was, for example, like a year ago or longer ago. Like, so I feel I have a confidence that I am responding from more often, much more often, a place of like regulation, which is like a place of being able to listen to my intuition.
And that's what I was about to ask you is like, what are the tools and what are the things that you have done? Is it breath work alone, or are there other things that you've done to really like connect to your intuition in a way that you know that it's telling you something and it's not fear popping up?
My biggest thing is definitely breath work, but I've also just, you know, I'm just aware of my feelings in a really different way at this point in my life than I used to be. So my feelings used to sort of control my life, and they felt like tides that came in that I was like, I didn't, you know, that I just was overwhelmed by them and they took over. And now I see my emotions as like messengers. So like I listen to my emotions. So the fact that I had this like feeling about the place in that moment, I was walking around and just like feeling the house and feeling how the property felt to me. And um, I was really like, I just made note of and listened to the feelings that came up. Whereas in the past, I would have been like, oh, I'm so sensitive. I'm so emotional. Like, oh, just like stop that. Like, it's, you know, you can get over that big thing there. But it was the emotion really that told me that there was something. It was
You're
like,
honoring yourself and what you know as a physical energetic body, isn't it? It's an
yeah, exactly. And that's what I do with clients coaching. You know, it's a lot of like honoring just the things that are going inside of us, like honoring it all and not dismissing parts of it that are like not how that aren't good or like bad or, you know, and it's not about being logical.
and it's removing the judgment, isn't it? It's like, who are we to say what is good or bad? For in this
Mhm.
case, it was, well, there's something, I'm feeling something, there's a discomfort there, and honoring that in, okay, I will explore that because I'm feeling it for a reason. I know it's not fear. It's something else that I can't necessarily put my finger on. Of course, you know, you discover then that it is potentially a big thing and enough for you to say no, not to commit to something that you said before that it, would stretch you financially, which is also another stressor. And then, there's the whole moving and all of that, which is great if it all kind of works and everything fits together. I think it's a beautiful story of what can happen when you really start to learn to know yourself and connect with yourself in ways where you're using or you're honoring the emotions that we feel, not just dismissing them, not pushing them down, not suppressing them, not dismissing that you're saying, okay, there's something here. But it does require a stillness, doesn't it? That
Mm-hmm.
you get, and I mean, breath work can help you with that. There are other ways of doing it too, but that you get quiet and curious. We've talked about that before too, and we will again and again. But
Yeah.
that stillness and curiosity, it's beautiful. I love your story. And
No, it was like, I mean, it was the whole 5 day. I mean, it happened like within 5 days, all of this. Like, and honestly, I'm in a bit of shock over it all because it was like so emotional, the whole thing. It was super emotional and like super exciting and super like interesting. Like I am like really fascinated by what happened in the last 5 days because it felt really magical too, the whole thing. Like it felt like it had to do with like it wasn't just like me. It wasn't just like simple humans moving around and like, doing things and signing contracts and like it was like it just felt like it was like this bigger, you know, this bigger things at work. It was just super interesting, super interesting. But ultimately, it was this like real, like, God, it's amazing to trust yourself, to be just like, and to follow things, to not shut things down. And then to also be in a place where you believe and lean into abundance. So like us if I was in a scarcity mindset, I would be like, well, it checks all the other boxes and we can figure out how to make it work and that little thing like I'll just not look at it and like I'm sure it'll be fine and because you would be too afraid that something else wouldn't come up. You're like, but I've wanted this place for so long and this is it and this must be it and it's like to be non-grasping, to just be like, I believe in a totally abundant world that's going to send me something better. It's like, that's like, just, I'm so close. I'm so close. That was so close. And that's so exciting. And there's something better coming. It's going to be better. It's going to fit into our lives easier. It's going to be like more effortless and more in flow. And there are other reasons I don't even know. I believe that we didn't get that place. Like, there
that,
are
yeah.
ones that I can kind of foresee, but then I think there were other things that were going to come up about that.
That's more than a whole road building energy, distribution kind of issue, that it's something else. And I love that way of kind of looking at things too, because then you can let go. And it's important that we're able to let go,
Mhm.
that it's an experience and yes, feel the sadness. Of course you're sad. You invested energy into it. And
Yeah,
there was potential there, but that flipping it, that it's not scarcity and it's not the end of the world, that you're moving towards something more suited to your family and that you don't even necessarily know about.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then there's also like a really something I find super interesting about manifesting. And this is what I have found with manifesting. I'd love to know about your experience, Lisa. So like in this case, yes, I had lived in the house, like, but I made it sound like I obsessively lived in the house. That wasn't the case. I just have like I'm really visual. I can be in a house. I can like smell the house. I can like see the house. I can like feel the countertop. I can do all that sensory stuff in my head really easily. So I had done that, but I had also declared it was ours, really sort of intensely lived in the space, and then let it go. I had really relaxed into the fact it was coming to us. I had like I had relaxed so much into that that I wasn't clinging to it. I wasn't manifesting every single day, like meditating on it every single day. I wasn't doing anything like that. I just was like, sometimes it would pop in my head and I'd be like, live there for like a little bit. Might have a cup of tea there. Like, but it wasn't like I was like clinging to it. So,
Mhm.
what I believe about manifestation in my experience and how it has worked for me is this like, intensity around it, really living something and then letting go and just trusting. And that's how I met my husband as well, on the side note. I was like on my own, doing my own thing. And I was like, had been with other people and dated people and had some like bad relationships and was so fed up with it all. And I was like, this person's going to come to me. They're going to come to me. And it's going to be right timing. And like, I had like, imagined who that person could be. And I was like, and they're going to come to me. And I met my husband in a coffee shop less than 5 minutes from my house in a tiny little town. And, he was from London and he was like, showed up in my little coffee shop that I worked at every single day.
I love that. That's gorgeous.
But I think for me, it's about this like, yes, intensity of desire but then also like a real belief that it's going to come and a relaxation into it and a relaxation into the like knowing that we live in an abundant world, like a abundant universe that it's going to come to us.
Because I think as soon as you start thinking about and hold it, that what if it doesn't happen, you go down those paths, which what can happen if you're kind of not letting it go and relaxing, that you just have this inner knowing, that then you start focusing on the opposite.
Mm-hmm. So you call in the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, your energy follows your focus, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like the more anxious you are, a life doesn't get easier. You just get more anxious because more things keep popping up in your face in ways that perhaps wouldn't if you were able to just go, okay, I'm just gonna breathe out now and let that go, and go on with my life and look for the glimmers and be grateful for the beautiful small things. And yeah, it's a relaxing, but it's not necessarily something we're taught. Some people have it more naturally than others. And I think it is something that it's a practice that you can really lean into and breathe into and get still with, that can make a big difference in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and letting go and trust are difficult ones for us humans. We have not been taught to let go or to trust. We've been taught that we should let go and trust. But there are no signs around us that are showing us that that's a good idea. So,
Of course, yeah, a lot of people had experiences that are really adverse in that sense. Their trust has been completely undermined
yeah,
by
absolutely.
parents at school, by partners. So yeah, it's far easier, and it's a different way of trusting, I guess. It's more connected to yourself rather than other people. It's not necessarily that.
And trusting something greater than us.
Yeah.
And I think too, when we, are wanting something to happen so badly in our lives, and sometimes, it's a balance, the doing and the like being in that vision, the letting go and just being like, I know it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to. And
And that's not for
allowing,
us to know, is it? The how is not necessarily. I mean, I think a lot about that, because you kind of have this, sometimes you can be in a focused state where you're like, well, and you want to plan the steps, but the thing can appear in a way that you never could have imagined. And I've read so many stories about that. I mean, just, my lifestyle, how I live now, it's like I envisioned it, and yeah, and it's like I'm living it now. And there are tweaks, there are tweaks, but it's like, well, I look around, I'm like, well, this is exactly what I asked for. It's like,
Yeah.
just what I wanted. I live in, it is fascinating. It's a fascinating process.
Yeah. And I think when we, when we get too involved in the how it's going to happen, and people can get super controlling and super pushy and super, I could have written the estate agent every day and I could have tried to I'm just so not my style. Like
Yeah.
this never would have happened. But like some people would have gotten really like involved and tried to get information and tried to, I didn't do any of that. It was effortless. It came to me. Like, and but I think it does take practice to trust that. And again, nervous system regulation, like to trust that things are going to work out and things are going to come to you and it's going to work out like the way you want it to or even better. And then to also, when you look around and you realize that you're like living your dream in so many ways, to be able to also be so grateful for that, so thankful for that. I mean, I'm so grateful for what just happened in the last 5 days. Every bit of it, the whole thing, I am so grateful for. And and then to also turn around and be like, and now I get to create something else. Like it's not over. My life's not over just because I look around and I go like, okay, well, yeah, this checks like a lot of the boxes. I'm talking about my life too. It's like this checks a lot of my boxes. Like if you'd talked to me like 15 years ago or if I looked at myself now, I would be like, holy shit. Yeah.
Look at her go.
And and it's also easy to forget, like to not be grateful for the things around you. It's easy to look around and just go beyond to the next thing. It's the combination of the two, right? The gratitude, seeing how far you've come, noticing that, and then to be able to continue to create and look for driftwood, look for signs that the like good stuff is coming to you versus like looking for signs that it's like not working out because we can choose to do either. We can practice. We can practice doing something different.
Yeah, and we have a choice in how we see things. I happened to across an Instagram account. It was so amazing. It was a guy writing different things that his mum had said. Mum is no longer alive, but it was like, whatever his name is. Oh, love, I'm running late because the car broke down, and what a gift, because then I saw this and this and this, and now I'm coming here and I'm walking in late and it's all okay. And it was along the lines of that. It was things that you would normally look at and interpret as, oh, that's a bit crap. She was like flipping it totally. And it was gorgeous because he typed it out and it was just so beautiful. And there was multiple of them. And he said, I'm trying to remember all of the things my beautiful mum said. But it is that we have a choice. We don't, I mean, running late, you could walk in all stressed and be terrible, but instead she was just full of love and walks in and like, oh, I'm late because the car broke down, but I saw this amazing thing and, what a joy it is. And, or I met and talked to this person who helped me with this other thing that could have been really bad. It was, yeah, really glorious and made me reinforce the idea that we have a lot of choice in how we respond to the world and how we view the world, and letting go and releasing our hold on perfection and kind of having those still moments where we listen to our intuition and listen to the feelings that come up. That's a beautiful way to live.
And that living that way affects your physical reality so much. Your life gets good when you like practice living that way more and more. And again, it is all a practice. It is all a practice, but like you do have to practice it because we're not taught that. Most of us didn't have moms who acted like that. My mom certainly didn't.
She's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I certainly didn't have those stories like around me. So,
That's the worry wart. Can be the like, yeah, that towards the more anxiety stuff. But yeah, it's yeah, I'm incredibly grateful that I grew up with at least one parent who was pretty open and ready to see the world, see the glimmers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. It's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you about your amazing 5 days that you've had and the ups and downs, the roller coaster, and how listening to your intuition is really valuable, and that you have allowed yourself and honored yourself in listening to that.
Thank you, Lisa. No, it was a pleasure to share the story. It's also like still it hasn't like dissipated from my mind. So I don't know that I could have talked about anything else today. And also I'm quite exhausted from it all. It was like an emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
I could take a nap after this. But it
Yeah.
was a pleasure to share it. And it did feel really like a sort of mind-blowing, important 5 days.
Yeah.
Exciting and fun too.
Yeah, exactly. And that is what I love. Like, you're actually kind of glowing, even though it's been like pretty serious, but it's like a really positive thing, which is beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. And to our listeners, and if you're watching, thank you for listening and being here as you are. See you next time.